one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I came to play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me. Then I double up again, none of their knows, none of them cold. They just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies.
Hey there, how are you?
Doing all right, thanks.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear. Happy Veterans Day.
Thanks.
All righty. We're going to welcome everybody. We're giving folks a little bit of time to get on the stage, and we are broadcasting out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and a couple other places. But
cool.
First, I want to share a couple of things. So, and welcome the new people to start up on the blocks. See what I can get going here. All right, Terry, we've been doing this Startup on the Blocks for a little over a year now. We started August 2020, and we've had quite a few events since then, and a lot of participation. And we do this event just to kind of help people network and learn about the startup ecosystem. So we launched a pitch competition last week. We use our pitch competition to kind of help recruit people into the startup ecosystem and help them learn a little bit about what being a startup founder is all about. And we try to, teach them the best practice, but we use our pitch competition to kind of lure people in. And there's a whole bunch of money out there, for Black and brown founders. And so we want to make sure, folks of color get a chance to go after some of that money.
That's good.
Yes, fantastic. And, I got over 5 billion. I stopped counting when I got to 5 billion. That was like this past summer, there was so many corporate companies putting funding to support Black and brown founders. So Innisfree Hotel, they sponsored our first 2 pitch competitions, and the First Bank, they came on to sponsor our current pitch competition. And you remember Gulf Power when you lived back up in North Florida, Terry, and they're one of our major sponsors. And we partner, with Bantucola to do the live streaming. We, got a Black business directory for the Gulf Coast. And we partner with the SBDC, the Pensacola Chamber, and the Minority Chamber. We also connect with the chambers over in Panama City as well.
Okay.
And so we're definitely happy to have you on here tonight and to kind of share your wisdom and about intellectual property and all the different things related to patents and stuff like that. Next week we got Lakeisha French coming on. She's started a new company, so she wanted to. We had her on earlier this year, and she's helping run this Southeast Business Hub for minority businesses, and so she's really excited about all the opportunities, and so she did her own startup. Gulf Power, Florida Power and Light, they run this accelerator program, and we're hoping to get Matthew on really soon here. I got to reach out to him so we can get him to go ahead and schedule a date. He's agreed to come on. And so we're looking forward to learn about that program down in South Florida. So next, we generally do our office hours on Saturday from 1 to 3. So this Saturday, we're going to bring in a lawyer that's all about business formation, operating agreements, how to fund your business and all the legal stuff associated with that, mergers, all kinds of stuff. So we're looking forward. Bob is really excited we're going to be streaming that, and also we're going to have it in person. So this will be really great to kind of see some of the founders come out and participate. So he has an extensive background in a lot of the businesses that are formed here in Pensacola. His company he was really involved in that. It's got a lot of wisdom to share. He and I are both mentors with at the spring in their they call it the MBS program, but it's the MIT mentoring program. So he's a good guy, and we're looking forward to. But Terry, you're as an IP lawyer and patent attorney, you don't get into that kind of stuff, all this formation stuff, do you?
I usually don't. I leave that for people who've got more experience in it, and largely because if you're depending on what you're forming and depending on if you've got foreign nationals involved, this is just one example. There's different rules and stuff. So I more or less made it a practice to stay out of the business formation. So when I do have clients come to me, especially if they're 9 times out of 10, my first recommendation is they need to talk to a business lawyer and get a business formed.
Yeah, and so that's what Bob he specialized in. So we're looking forward to having somebody like that to help our startup founders, and we opening that up to the public, but we want all our founders out there and people who are thinking about forming a business to kind of come on and participate that. So Daniel Pennington, he's real gracious as well. He's a speaking coach, and I use a lot of his training. He was one of my pitch coaches, and I've won several pitch competitions because of him, and also got some speaking engagements because of him. So he's a good guy, and he's looking forward to come in and helping out our founders as well. Because if you can pitch your idea clearly and concisely, you can literally onboard more customers, and you can win pitch competition and raise money to help build your MVP. And so that's we're looking forward. And that's also going to be the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and we're going to be streaming that thanks to Bantucola, and we're also going to be in person. Yeah, and so that's pretty fantastic. All righty, so Startup on the Blocks, I'll hit this real quick. We're not like a lot of other folks in the ecosystem. We're ecosystem builders, but we want to help those people that are thinking about becoming founders, and also the existing founders, and get them introduced to a lot of that stuff. And and we do these events every week. We hold pitch competitions on a regular basis, and those people that are finalists in our pitch competition, we invite them to be one of our portfolio companies, and then we offer them all these free services to kind of help them with building their product or service, and coaching them and mentoring them to kind of move forward. And we also unique is that we in our nonprofit, we have some AI tools, and we make those available to our startup founders as well, and some other free resources. And I'll stop at this slide, but this is our playbook. We want to launch startups, and our goal is to launch at least 20 new startups a year. So, and this is the playbook. We let them know you have to learn how to use the Lean Startup methodology. And we've been encouraging everybody to enroll in startupschool.org. And that's run by Y Combinator, and they've been in business doing startups, supporting startup founders since around 2005. And one of the sites that we have everybody build a profile in is f6s.com. That site, you go in and build your personal profile, your business profile, and then you're eligible for all these free cloud things, all these free discounted accounting services. I mean, it's just unbelievable amount of stuff you get. And we just asked our portfolio companies and the folks out there in the audience to just attend our weekly events and leverage all the resources in the ecosystem. We sent out an email with tons of opportunities on it. So I think the one I sent out this week, Terry, it had probably close to $2 million worth of opportunities in there, and I kind of categorize them so people can actually see what's best for them. Here are our mentors. We're excited so our portfolio companies, we give them access to our mentors, accountants, CPAs, and business development folks, marketing folks. So it's pretty neat opportunity for them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll start with this slide. I wasn't going to start with everybody. I wanted to kind of find this slide right here. We're actually we've been referring people to startup school, and we're going to continue to do that. But we're hoping by the beginning of the year we can launch our own accelerator in a box, and so we'll keep everybody posted on that. So Terry, as you see, we try to do a lot of things.
Yes.
We're small, but we definitely try to hit the key things and kind of make it easy as possible for people to start working on their idea.
That's impressive what you've developed so far.
Yes, and so as these startups are coming up with ideas and building MVPs, they're probably going to develop some intellectual property. There's no doubt about it. They will, and they may even come across something that's patentable, and some of their stuff they definitely want to keep as a trade secret, especially if it's something really neat. So I wanted to kind of let the audience get to know you a little bit, and I'm with the audience tonight. I'll be getting to know you as well. And so who's that guy you got back in that picture in the back there?
Yeah, someone you knew well. That was my father.
Okay.
That was
okay.
Pre me, meaning that was after he finished high school. He spent 4 years in the Air Force as a enlisted. After the Air Force, he separated, used the GI Bill to go to Tuskegee Institute at that time and got a degree in electrical engineering.
Fantastic. I'm an electrical engineer too, so that's pretty neat. Yeah, he definitely was a good guy. I enjoyed conversations with him and eating your mother's dinner. As a college student, that was pretty neat to be able to go to the engineer's house and the wife cook us dinner and everything. So yeah, it was kind of cute. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Terry.
Well, as we already alluded to, I am from the Panhandle. At least I finished high school up there and grew up in Niceville. After Niceville, like my father, I went to Tuskegee. While I was there, it switched from Tuskegee Institute to Tuskegee University. I was there on an Air Force scholarship. So after I finished Tuskegee, I spent 8 years in the Air Force. The first 5 years at Edwards Air Force Base, doing space propulsion, which to this day I still say is probably the funnest job I had. I was actually managing a multi-million-dollar experimental space propulsion system. So after I left the program, and actually I think even after I got out the Air Force, it eventually flew in space.
Wow, fantastic. That's neat to work on something that actually ends up in space.
Yep. So after, like I said, 5 years out there, I knew I was getting out the Air Force, so I chose to come back to Eglin. Did 3 more years in the Air Force there. Then I got out and went to law school.
Okay.
After law school, I ended up getting hired in Orlando, Florida, doing intellectual property law. Been there ever since. Started with one firm. Within 2 years, I left that firm. Well, actually, everyone who was doing intellectual property, we all left together, and we started up our own firm. So I was at that firm for about 19 years, managed it for about 10 or 11 of those 19 years. And mind you, I was the most junior of the attorneys, age-wise and experience-wise. But I ended up managing that long because I probably was the only one who had any type of management experience from my time in the Air Force.
Yes, gotcha.
Then a couple of years ago, it was clear that my vision on where I wanted the firm to go, my practice to go, didn't kind of work with what they wanted to do. So I ended up leaving and
Okay.
started a new firm. It's Busey Sanks. The first name partner was the same gentleman who hired me out of law school. He
Okay.
had actually retired probably about 10 years ago. And when I was setting this firm up, he came out of retirement to go with me to set this firm up.
Fantastic.
He says he's done his penance. He's been with me for a little over a year. He plans to go back into retirement come January.
Okay. Wow, that's coming up pretty quick.
Yes. So for the most part, I mean, we're a full service intellectual property law firm. By that, I mean, we handle patents, trademarks, copyrights, litigation, any type of transactional work that involves intellectual property.
Yes.
So I've
Yes.
been doing this now for about 22 years.
Okay. Yeah. I'll do one quick question. We one of the companies we work with, Edgeosity, they received a patent a couple of months ago, and that was pretty amazing. And it's many people I know that have patents. I've never actually seen one that's shipped from the patent office, so it was pretty neat to kind of see that. From that standpoint, but so their patent is around education and macro content.
Okay.
And so they're already getting offers, to try to buy somebody's trying to buy their patent from them.
Okay.
Yeah, and so because it's in a unique space, and it's solving a big problem, perfect timing,
Right.
and everything. So so in a case like that, so they're trying to build a software product around it, for helping K through 12 students with their keep up with their work and and learn, and it's oriented towards people of color,
Right.
and and so they already got like over 100,000 students lined up to use it once they so it's definitely pretty significant, but so in a situation you got like that where they could have, how would they even have, if somebody tried to buy it, but how do you even put a value on something like that, and when it comes like that kind of intellectual property?
At this point, it's kind of hard. I mean, when I counsel my clients, unless they're just looking to make a quick buck and move on and do something else, I don't recommend selling their patent.
Okay,
you can
gotcha.
always license it, because there's a lot you can do. You can have either an exclusive license where that just means one person takes the license, or you can have a non-exclusive where you can have multiple people with the license. The beauty with licensing, you can structure that license agreement almost however you want. By that, I mean, most people think, oh, you're getting a royalty. Yes, that's one aspect of it. But you can also set it up so that you're expected, there might be some upfront payment they have to make, the licensee has to make. You might try to set it up, or you're able to set it up where there is a minimum license fee that has to be paid every year.
Okay.
So, and the reason you would do something like that, I mean, back in the 50s, and this was happening in the car industry, car companies were buying up patents and then not using them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they just wanted to get them off the market. So if someone's going to buy your patent, at least try to make sure that if they're going to keep it off the market, at least make sure that you're getting some type of minimum royalty out of it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So I kind of jumped a little bit there because I thought it'd be good to kind of give some examples there. But let's go back to Niceville, Florida. What made you to decide to go the Air Force route, and also and also to go to Tuskegee?
Tuskegee, because of him. I'll tell you a quick story on that. Honestly,
Okay.
I was not headed towards Tuskegee. I mean,
Okay.
I had a full ride going to UF.
Okay.
He came home one day. We were at family dinner, and he just nonchalantly said, Terry, you're not going to the University of Florida. And I'm like, okay, why not? Because in my mind, I'm like, I got a full ride. It's like, this is a no-brainer to me.
Okay.
He said, I've talked to a lot of my coworkers who sent their kids there, and if you go there, you'll be nothing but a number.
Okay.
And that's not what he wanted for me. He wanted me somewhere where I could get some one-on-one attention if I needed it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
then it was a big dance. I'm trying to find any school but Tuskegee that he didn't know about, or that he didn't have coworkers who knew enough about it.
Trying to outsmart him, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, he finally it just came down. He said, and he told it to me and my brother right under me. He just said, give me 1 year at Tuskegee. If you don't like it, then you can go somewhere else.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, as for engineering, again, that involved my parents. I wanted nothing to do with engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, I was good in science and math in high school, but it would still work. And I knew even in high school, I wanted to be an attorney.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So after I got accepted at Tuskegee and when I had to declare my major, my plan was to be political science.
Gotcha.
And again, I had a discussion with him, and it was a somewhat heated discussion. And he wanted me to be in engineering. I'm saying no, I'm going political science. And after we were done, we both went back to our respective corners. My mother came up to me and she said, you do know you can go to law school with any degree. So after hearing that, I'm like, okay, I'll go be an engineer.
Okay.
And then when I go to law school, I can go do whatever I want with the law degree after that.
Gotcha. I see it. So it sounds like your mother has a lot of wisdom. Like, of course, I know that. So.
Yeah, she does.
Okay,
so,
fan.
Like I said, I've got no regrets. Getting the engineering degree. To be a patent attorney, you can't be one unless you have a technical background.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
If I had done what I wanted to have done, I probably would not. I know I would not be in this field today.
Okay. Yeah. So where do you weigh heavy the most? When an IP attorney, is that mostly about patents, or I hear talk about trade secrets and stuff like that, but where does the lawyer get involved with trade secrets, because the company's trying to keep them secret? So where does the lawyer get involved with stuff like that?
The lawyer gets involved, and where I've primarily gotten involved, there's two places. One, someone brings something to me wanting to get a patent, and I may counsel them, here's some things to consider. If it's something that you can have it in the market, no one will ever see it. So that, when I say it, let me put it like this. If it's something that you get a patent on, and if someone infringes on your patent, but you have no way of proving it, and there's no way if you put it in the market, and if there's no way to reverse engineer it, you may as well keep it as a trade secret. Because the beauty of a trade secret is it goes on forever. I'll give you some examples. Coca-Cola formula. Kentucky Fried Chicken with their spices. How they do their fried chicken. If you can keep it a trade secret, you're better off keeping it a trade secret, because you can keep it confidential longer. Now, where I've counseled clients, they've come to me, it's like, well, I've got this recipe, or I've got this formula. I need this company to manufacture it. Won't they know my trade secret? Yeah. If you're working with one company, yes, they will now know your trade secret. So I will counsel them, don't use just one company. If you're dealing with some type of process or formula, use at least two companies.
Okay.
Have company one do half the process, company two do the other half. Then you can either have company three who will do the final process, or you can take information from the process part from company two, give it to company one, and they'll do the final formulation. That way, nobody but you as the business owner or people you trust within your company will know the full process.
Wow. I'm so glad you went through that example, because it's just people, founders, that get stuff in their head and they don't really know. And so that's when you need to get the expert advice, to kind of see what your options are. And so there a lot of folks out there, they need answers, to questions, but they out there in a silo by themselves. But if they get involved in the startup ecosystem, it's literally an opportunity to get connected to experts like you and get some inside information, so you don't have to be wondering all the time about what you need to do.
Well, and even examples like this, if you're involved with that startup ecosystem, if you're going to meetups and stuff, this is a lot of stuff you will learn there. I mean, if you're trying to do it on your own, no, you probably won't succeed. Right. If you bounce things off of others who are doing the same thing, gone through, or they might be a month ahead of where you are, and if they're willing to share what they've learned, you're better off.
Yes. I have a gentleman. He kind of like he's so scared of getting ripped off. He refused to get involved with the ecosystem. But it's tough enough, even in the ecosystem. But if you're out there trying to do it by yourself, it's really, really amazing. So when you were with that second law firm, I think it was, so you had been doing some management. So they weren't just doing intellectual property law. They were doing some other kind of law. That's why.
No, it was all intellectual property.
Okay.
It had more to do with the management. Well, I'd say the management and how they wanted the firm structured. We started the firm, there were 7 partners, and everyone, for no other better term, was their own individual profit center.
Wow.
So to give you an example, as my practice has grown, I needed associates to come in and help.
Gotcha.
I needed to get other attorneys in, other staff in. But nobody wanted to help pay for it, but they wanted to profit off of the people that came in.
Wow.
So, like I said, I'm now off of the new firm. And again, it's not just me. It was me and Busey. But over the summer, I've hired 2 other people one person who writes patents, another litigator, and another paralegal. So, it's slowly growing.
Good.
Next year, I plan to hire at least probably 1 or 2 more attorneys to bring on.
Yeah. So in a situation like you're in now, it's like, it's just like being a founder. You have to come up with all these strategies on how to move forward.
Yes.
And you have to kind of which customers are the lowest hanging fruit. I noticed on your website, you said something like you work with some companies and helping them manage their IP portfolio.
Correct.
Yeah. And so have you got involved with any kind of like startups at all yet?
I'm quite busy with startups.
Okay.
Like I said, my practice ranges from working with startups to working with Fortune 500 companies.
Okay.
So
the
large part of the managing portfolios are with the regional and Fortune 500 companies. But at the same time, and those are more, I guess, I'm pigeonholed in one particular area. For example,
Okay.
I'm just doing patents for them.
Okay.
The startups, I call myself more of a holistic IP attorney
Okay.
because just as we're discussing here, I try to cover all facets of intellectual property. So
Okay.
when I'm working with the startups, I am talking to them about patents. Maybe again, if it's not, I mean, because patents are, people think it's what they need to get a company going.
Mm-hmm.
But to me,
I agree with you.
the most
I agree with that
valuable. So what?
statement.
What'd you
I
say?
agree with that statement. They think it's the most thing they need to get going.
Yeah. The what they need the most is branding. What they
Oh
need to
wow.
do is the trademark.
Okay.
I had a
Okay.
meeting with actually one of my startups earlier this week that I do a lot of
Okay.
work with, and
Okay.
that was part of our discussion. I mean, actually, I brought them in to meet with another company that's only been in the start, well, they just started less than a year ago. So
Okay.
I wanted them to meet with that founders to start trying to hopefully help shepherd them and be a mentor towards them. And
Gotcha.
even the CEO of the more established one of the first things he said to us, it's your branding. It's because
Gotcha.
you've got to get your name out there. You've got to get your product out there. And these guys, they are all over social media with their product. They
Okay.
are giving pictures. They are, as they're winning, they are advertising that. They are promoting their product and what they're doing all over the place. I mean, their brand is developed so much that the Orlando Business Journal last week did their top power players in Orlando,
Okay.
and the CEO of the company was listed as one for being one of the companies that they consider a disruptive company because they're going to
Wow.
disrupt how technology or in that area already works.
Fantastic.
And why did they get that recognition? Because of their marketing, because of their branding.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Yeah, that's really neat. And I'm excited to hear that you, work with startups because I think a little bit of what I've seen up this way, that um, those there's plenty of lawyers, of course, and there's a fewer, quite a, there's not as many patent attorneys, IP attorneys, um, but I don't know if they're the right lawyers for startup founders because our ecosystem hadn't matured, where you got a great volume, of founders and, creating new companies and stuff like that. Whereas like over, in San Francisco and then, a dense area like you all down there in Orlando, I think there's a lot of activity going on.
Right.
And so they see more problems that the founders have, other companies have, and then they're better refined on how to structure agreements to keep the companies out of trouble in the future.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And at my old firm, and it's not as well. I still have it now. There is actually a firm. I don't know. I think they have an office in Miramar, but they're originally a Panama City firm that I've had a strategic
Okay.
relationship with for
Okay.
about 9 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 9 to 10 years.
Okay.
And now also they merged with a Alabama firm, so now they've got offices throughout the Panhandle as well as like Mobile, I think Birmingham, Montgomery,
Mm-hmm.
where I do work with them in part on providing that IP expertise that they need. I mean, they
Gotcha.
really
Okay.
don't have it.
Yeah.
But when they need, again, a patent attorney, right now I'm actually doing some litigation with them on
Gotcha.
trademark infringement work.
Wow. Okay.
So I've worked with I've worked with several companies up in the Panama City area, and actually even a couple in the Destin area.
Okay. So I just started something, and like when and this is what I like about the networking startup ecosystem and two co-founders or three co-founders. When you start working on an idea on something that's never been done before, or you're doing something in some unique way, that's how the innovation comes. By just once you start focusing on that particular problem and trying to come up with a solution to it. And so,
True.
yeah, and so I in the past I hadn't really thought about that, the benefit of that, but that's what it's all about. It's kind of obvious, but when you get a bunch of people working together and working on their ideas and building these startups, your IP will grow really fast, and then the need for these intellectual property lawyers will actually grow as well.
That's true.
Yeah, and so it's kind of funny we're talking about this, because I don't think a lot of our founders realize when 2-3 people start working on an idea, there's a lot of synergy comes there, and you do start coming up with solutions to solve the problem, and that's where the value in your idea start increasing.
No, that's so true. And I think the key, even before you get to that point, is make sure you have written agreements in place as to who owns what everyone's role is. Because from a patenting standpoint, and patents are the only ones like this of the IP, or copyrights are to an extent. But if you bring together 3 people, and if there's no company involved and they come up with something together, they're all inventors.
Yes, gotcha.
And under patent law, if for some reason they choose not to assign that patent or patent application to a company and they get a patent, each of them can go off and basically compete against the other using that same patent. So inventor A could go out, get a license for $1 million. Inventor B, if they're not together, learns about that license. Inventor B might go back to that same licensee and say, look, I'll give it to you for $500,000. And then inventor C could come along and hear about it and say, same company says, I'll give it to you for $100,000.
Wow.
So everyone is bidding against each other. So, and that's why I stated earlier, when someone comes to me, especially when it comes to a patent, if I have multiple inventors coming to me, the first thing I'm asking them to do is go set up a corporation. It could be, I mean, when I say corporation, some type of formal business entity, typically it's an LLC, have an operating agreement. You're better off having an operating agreement that has dissolution clauses, so that if it dissolves, it explains what happens to what. Namely, I'm looking at the IP.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm trying to make is if you don't have the lawyers that actually understand all these things that can go wrong, that you could literally get in trouble with your startup, and so the bottom line, what I want to kind of get across here is, if you have the proper agreements in place from the beginning, then the less chance of confusion coming when there's a disagreement or something.
That's true. You're right, because if the agreements are in place, then if there's a disagreement, the agreements are the roadmap as to how to resolve it.
Yeah, that's so important, and so that's why so like I remember a few of our startups, they came in and pitched an idea, and then all of a sudden when we were doing our second pitch competition, well, I don't have that idea anymore because our partners, we split off. We were both working on and we just disagreed. So before you, is there much you can do before you actually form the company if you start working on something together, or it's almost like you should go ahead and form the company even if I don't know, it's just a little confusing to me right now.
I've had people who have come up with the idea first.
Okay.
And then they'll form a company. And I look at it like a marriage. So
okay.
You're in the honeymoon stage where you're coming up with the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, they're very much in love. Everything's going great. You're about to say, I do. That's when you need to put that prenup in place.
Yeah.
So that after you guys say, I do, and at that point, 9 times out of 10, people are still, like I said, that's why I look at it like you're still in the honeymoon stage. They're saying yes to everything. They want to work together.
Yeah.
So then after that's in place, if there's a disagreement of falling apart, you've got something in place that says how things should play out.
Right. And I think in general, from a legal standpoint, when I remember going to a kind of like a black business thing way back in the 90s, Vercel Vance, and one of the speakers was a lawyer, and they were saying the best thing you can do is understand that you can work with people and get partners. You just need to have the proper agreements that spells out everything.
That's correct.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry. You want to be able to trust people, but with those agreements, at least you have a legal leg to stand on.
That's true.
Yeah.
And where that benefits you, understand, if you get into a lawsuit trying to figure it out,
mm-hmm.
nobody wins in that lawsuit except for the attorney.
Right. Yes, that's exactly right.
You don't want to go down that path. If there's clearly, again, documents that show how things should be, the good attorneys aren't going to go get into a lawsuit over something like that. If it's spelled out, they're going to counsel their clients, let them know, here's your issues. This is what we recommend doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Looks like we got a question, Terry, from Vercel Vance. Said, first of all, congratulations on your many accomplishments. Question, is there a reason, benefits to choose a Florida patent attorney for a Florida company versus one from New York or California markets?
There is no difference. There's no difference from if they're technically capable, there's no difference. Where you may see the difference, and again, it depends. Even in Florida, it's attorney to attorney, what the costs are going to be. I do applications for clients throughout the world. So it's not about meeting them face to face. For some clients, I do Zoom calls. Well, not at Zoom's going, but even before that, we just did conference calls, or we did everything via paper. I have a disclosure form. I send that. They send me back the completed disclosure form. We will draft an application. We'll include comments and questions within what we've drafted, like saying where we feel we need more information, send it back to them. They'll provide us additional information. We'll go back and revise the application. So again, my recommendation is always find someone you feel comfortable with.
Yes, that's exactly right. And Vercel has a second question, and this one seems a little technical. If a company is dissolved and it's a single entity S corp, is there a need / requirement to establish the disposition of intellectual property, particularly if an ex-employee knows about the IP and may try to replicate and take the IP?
If the IP is in the name of that single entity LLC, I would still assign it. If it's dissolved, I would have it assigned to to that single person, just
Okay, gotcha.
to have a clear chain of title.
Gotcha,
Because if
gotcha.
you try to say later, you may license it to, or you may sell it to someone else. Part of what they should be doing is a due diligence, and part of that due diligence is checking the chain of title.
Gotcha,
So if
gotcha.
they see where it was in the patent office where this LLC had it, and now you're saying you own it, they're going to want to see that chain of title to show that how did it get from your LLC, even if it's dissolved, to you.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the issue part of the issues why that may come up is that LLC might have debts. That LLC might have had someone who filed a lien against it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of unknowns that still might be out there. So
Mm-hmm.
you're better off just doing an assignment at the time of dissolution and having it put back in your name.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier before we came on about how, I think, so is there any unique things that you've seen in years or that related to artificial intelligence that's interesting as it relates to patents? And then, you know, I guess I'll leave it at that for now.
Well, and this has been just even this year, courts have come out and said if artificial intelligence comes up with an invention, it's not patentable.
Okay.
So there's only 2 countries in the world right now that says otherwise.
I'm surprised to hear you talk about this. You know who that guy is that's trying to get that done?
Who's that? You?
No, that's my business partner.
So what now?
Yeah, he's my business partner.
Okay. So
yeah, that's kind of cute. Yeah.
So, like I said, there's only 2 countries. Australia's one, and I think South Africa's the other one.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world is essentially saying if artificial intelligence comes up with an invention, it's not patentable. Now, can you use artificial intelligence in a patent? Yes.
Mm-hmm. My question was more about, you know, just artificial intelligence in general. Had you seen, you know, in the stuff that's being patented now, are you seeing more stuff related to artificial intelligence over the past few years?
I am starting to. I think about 3 years ago is when people started really looking at artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the problem 3 years ago was what they were calling out artificial intelligence wasn't there yet.
Gotcha.
It was, again, very detailed programming, but it wasn't truly learning AI. That is happening now.
Gotcha.
So you are starting to see more patents that's including that. Actually, currently, I just got a new client about a month ago where we're in the process of trying to license or enforce his 2 patents.
Okay.
And it's based on AI.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah. So you were talking about that AI, you know, doing an invention. Yeah, Steve Thal, you know, and I'll tell people about this. Like when I worked there at Eglin,
right?
You know, and I worked in the Air Force Research Lab, and you know, you know, manage, you know, a big portfolio of technology development, and over all those almost 27 years working for the Air Force Research Lab, that type of technology you just mentioned was I would say was the most novel stuff I saw, you know, when I worked for the government.
Right.
And yeah, and so, but one of the challenges the biggest challenges I saw, like, so, you know, he has several inventions related to that stuff, but the problem is, let's say he's got this invention called, let me get a group, let's say a group membership filter or whatever, but it's some artificial intelligence. But that one invention can be used for for radar. It can be used for marketing data. It can use for camera data. So how do you, when something is novel and it can be used in a lot of different fields, how do you determine how do you license that IP?
Well, at first it turns on in the patent. It turns on what the patent claims say.
Yes.
So hopefully the claims are broad, even though it might say in the title, this is what it's for. If the claims are broad enough to cover other fields, that's what you focus on.
Yes.
And when you go out marketing it, trying to license it, that's what potential licensees are going to look at. They're going to look at the patent claims. Yeah, they might see that title first, but when they look at the claims and see how broad the claims are, then they will understand that it might be worth their while to get a license.
Yeah, but in that case, I guess it doesn't have to be an exclusive. Like, it could be for a particular field. Yeah. So that's probably the most logical way.
Yeah, because in that situation, you're right. If they're different fields, you may give an exclusive license in one field and then give someone else an exclusive license in another field.
Gotcha. So, Vercel said, thanks for those, both of those answers. So you also mentioned earlier about the fourth industrial revolution, where all these technologies are going to be, working together to solve problems. What kind of, you have anything you can actually share? Would you say, because what I'm getting at is, as people learn about the startup stuff and start trying to build all these companies, and they're creating this intellectual property related to, the metaverse, or related to, manufacturing, so what do these founders need to be thinking about?
There's two things they need to really be thinking about. One is looking at the tech. I mean, there's so much out there now. You've got AI, you've got the Internet of Things. I mean, you've got augmented reality, virtual reality. I mean, the metaverse is trying to combine a lot of this stuff. I mean, that's why Facebook switched its name to Meta. They're trying to take the lead, or at least be the forefront. When people think of the metaverse, they want them to think of them. And the whole point, what's going on, it's what we say is disruptive technology.
Yes.
I'm going to give you an example. All right, you take Tesla.
Gotcha.
You take Uber. Now, here's two vastly different companies, but look at what they're both doing in the automotive industry. Tesla is developing electric cars, but the other part they're working on is the autonomous aspect of it.
Yes.
Uber's doing the same thing. I mean, they're a glorified taxi service, but they're also focused, at least they were heavily focused, on autonomous driving cars.
Yes.
Now, where's all this trying to go? It's trying to get to a point where we no longer own cars.
That's exactly right.
So when you need a car, you need to get somewhere, you will probably, here's a car, and you've seen it. I don't know if it's as much in Pensacola, where you have it with the motorized bikes, motorized scooters. They're just there.
Yeah,
you pay, you use it, you go. They're trying to do the same thing with vehicles. So Uber will own a fleet of vehicles.
Yes.
And then you will pay them to get in that vehicle, tell it where you want to go, and it will take you there. So that, again, it's where the disruptive, it's moving people away from wanting to own vehicles.
Yes.
And if you look at the younger generation, they're probably going to be all in on that.
I agree 100%. I was fortunate a couple of years ago. I got to work on a project for BP and also Avis Budget, and that was the whole idea of it. They're going to be all these autonomous vehicles, and they wanted a way to determine if there was any damage to those vehicles automatically. And
Yep.
so we were using our computer vision technology to actually develop. Do a pilot for them to show them how they could actually do that, automatically without human intervention.
Yep. I believe
Yes,
it.
it was pretty neat. Yeah. So anything else related to all these? It's exciting to hear you talk about the future and where things are headed, and so. So did you cover both of the things you wanted to cover before I interrupted
Well,
there?
I mean, the other thing, like I said, there's so much there. I mean, it's exciting to me from that perspective. I mean, I look at the whole 3D printing aspect of it.
Okay.
That is a new manufacturing technique. Well, I say
Okay.
new. Believe it or not, that manufacturing technique's been around for over 20 years.
I believe it. Yeah.
The problem that more or less forestalled it being developed more readily were the people who developed it had patents.
Okay.
So other people couldn't jump in it. As soon as those initial patents started expiring, that's when other companies jumped in it. So
Gotcha,
you've got all types of 3D printing that's taking place. I mean, you've got, I know the Navy a few years back 3D printed a house. One of my clients does 3D printing on the space station.
Wow.
We've done a lot of patents for them where everything is extraterrestrial.
That's a whole new space. Yeah,
Yes.
and what's so funny? I'm glad you said that too, because there are accelerator programs for space things.
Yes.
So that's pretty cute.
And like you said, with what they're doing with virtual reality and augmented reality, I mean, they're using it now to train surgeons. I've seen presentations where they want to use it. If you're going to have a surgery, before you go under the knife, they can actually the surgeon can walk you through using VR on what's going to happen, so you can see exactly what the surgeon's going to do prior to actually cutting on you.
Okay.
And again, it's a way to help train surgeons. I mean, it's very to the point where as the surgeon moves their hand, if they're grabbing the leg, you're seeing that. I've got a client who's using it again for remote training. So that if you want to train a mechanic to how to fix a vehicle, all of it can be done remotely through augmented reality. I mean, you've heard about the Google glasses and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of that stuff's still experimental, but it's within the next 5 years, you're really going to see it. Where you're going to see people are going to have either on their glasses, goggles. I mean, the Air Force was was more or less behind heads-up displays. I mean, there's technology now that's in vehicles. Where it's a head-up display right on your windshield with certain information. So I mean, if you just stop and think about it, it's not just glass. It's not just safety glass now. It's glass with technology in it so that it can display back to you visual images.
Yes. So it sounds like we'll, with the startup on the blocks, we'll definitely keep you in mind, as we as our founders come up with new ideas, new possible inventions or intellectual property to kind of move forward. I think Vercel probably wish he had known you because he spent a little bit of money on trying to get a patent on one of his ideas recently, and so we'll definitely keep our eyes and open for to to as you as a expert to kind of doing that. Things increase, we'll definitely want to get you up for a live thing on one of our Saturdays.
Okay. One thing I definitely point out when you're looking at going for a patent, have some strategy. Now you may not get that strategy from the patent attorney, because the patent attorney is just focused on working with you on the patent.
Yes,
you should have a more. And what I'm really trying to get at is, if you've got a company and you think this one patent's going to do it for you, you're already missing the boat.
yes.
You need to look at that patent from strategically.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, you don't want just one patent.
Mm-hmm.
If you have one patent, like I said, you're a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
You should be looking at what I call defensive patents. So if your first patent is actually your bread and butter on what you're doing, understand. Let me take a step back. When you file for a patent application, you're trying to claim, like, here's what you're trying to claim. I'm trying to claim a beach ball.
Okay.
The patent office is saying, we don't want you to get a beach ball. We're going to say you can just get a tennis ball.
Okay.
And now there's a negotiation. That's where they go back and forth with office actions, responding, rejections. You're trying to find an agreeable medium between the beach ball and that tennis ball. So you may find it, but in the process, there may be other aspects around. So you've gone from the beach ball down to a volleyball size. But there may be other aspects around that volleyball that you can still get patents on.
Gotcha.
And the reason you do it again, it's from a defensive perspective, so that you've got your volleyball, but maybe someone can come along and get that area between the volleyball and beach ball, and they can do something in that area that you can't stop them. So maybe they're doing a better job at branding. Maybe they're a bigger company, so people are thinking about them first. And so that's where people are going. I mean, I look at these smart watches. Everyone thinks about the Apple Watch. Apple Watch came along after the Samsung Watch, but people don't know that because Apple did a better job at branding and marketing itself. So everybody thinks about Apple Watches first. So it's not just getting the one patent, it's strategizing to build a patent portfolio. Because in the end, if you're looking at selling your company, licensing your company, that's where the value is. Give you a broader example, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the value in most companies was in their tangible assets, the brick and mortar. That's where the value is. Since 2010, the value has been in their intangible assets, their intellectual property.
Wow.
That's where, and it's gone from being like 5% of the business value to now being over 75% of the business value.
That's amazing. That's
so
really amazing.
That's why IP in general is key for a lot of companies.
Gotcha.
And that's why you ideally, and you're better off trying to find someone, and you can when you talk to an attorney, kind of get a feel from them on actually how far, where their knowledge goes, how far they go.
Gotcha.
If they're just there to say, I'm going to help you get a patent, you're probably going to want someone who can take it further than that.
Yeah, and I definitely, I'm glad you brought that up because I think most people think, oh, I got a patent and that's it, but it's actually, like you say, you have to, be able to, do all these things to, expand that patent or to do this defensive thing, and it's an ongoing ongoing thing. But it's great to get some intellectual property, and but we're in an innovation economy, and that's that's I can see that's probably why this IP is becoming a higher percentage of the value of the company, because people are creating stuff. AI, is the tool that can allow you to innovate faster. Yeah,
That's true.
so that's
And
kind of what to do.
Example of one of my former clients, and they were a former client because they were acquired, but this company started out as valet parking. That was their business, and the guy who started it actually played basketball at Florida State. So when he graduated, he went back to Orlando and he started a valet parking company. Over time, he had the vision to go further. He got contracts with the cruise ships. He got contracts with hotels, and he was handling baggage between the hotels, between the cruise ships from the airport. So he was building this company. He, again, being a visionary, and in this industry, you wouldn't think patents, but he went out and he got a couple patents. He then went out and actually acquired several other patents from some other companies that were either going under or they just weren't doing well, but they were still in the same industry. So about 4 years ago, he decided to sell the company. And he made, I think, $250 million off the sale of the company.
Wow.
And
fantastic.
why did he manage to sell it for that? Talking to their in-house attorney, it was all because of the patents.
Wow.
Now, COVID hit. That would have killed his practice. I mean, I would have killed his business because everything shut down. But like I said, he was able to get out before it happened. So, I mean, like I said, again, visionary or not, like I said, he did good. He did good from the standpoint he understood the benefits of having patents, and understand he wasn't using those patents. He just had those patents.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So, I mean, that was the whole point. He got them for the value. The other reason he got them, and this is what large companies do. When I say large, I'm talking about Fortune 500 companies.
Okay.
Understand, we're in the over 11 million patents that's been issued by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. When it was around 10 million, there was a study done that concluded only less than 5% ever went to market.
You got to be kidding me.
No, that's true. And the reason being because your largest companies, I mean, IBM every year acquires more patents than anyone else. These companies are getting the patents, but they're not using them. I equate it to they are setting up a war chest. So if their competitor sues them, the first thing they're doing is going to their war chest to say, okay, what do we have that they're infringing? So then when they answer the complaint, or they're going to sit down and say, let's talk, and say, okay, you say we're infringing this. Here's our list of patents that we believe we're infringing.
Okay.
And then what happens? They agree to cross-license the patents, and everybody goes on their merry way.
Man, there's so many strategies to kind of move forward and be successful. But if you don't find out these things unless you're kind of in these ecosystems or in these groups or in these networks.
So true.
And so I think my thing is, and I would just encourage everybody, and you definitely explained it well, is there's so many ways you can grow. But it's hard you can come up with ideas by yourself, but when you want to innovate and move, it typically takes a couple of people, talking things out, in order to move forward. Well, we're pretty much out of time, but is there any parting comments you want to make before we get off here and move a little forward?
I would just reiterate what we've already talked about.
Okay.
Use the ecospheres network.
Yeah.
You will gain a lot of information that way, so that when you feel as though you do need to speak, I mean, the one thing most people are afraid to go talk to an attorney because what they're seeing in front of their eyes are dollar signs.
Yes.
Understand that at least in the IP arena, it's more than likely you can find attorneys that will do 30-minute hour consultation. Use it, talk to them. Again, you're not limited geographically. I mean, if you're looking for a personal injury attorney for a car crash in Pensacola, yeah, you're going to look in Pensacola, but you are not limited to look. You just need someone who's registered to practice before the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you definitely gave me some ideas tonight, Terry, and I really, really appreciate it. So you know, sometimes you come across things but you forget about them. But you definitely inspired me to kind of keep in the game and kind of up my game a little bit, and kind of so I can kind of be on top of some of this stuff and be able to move forward. So we really appreciate you coming on tonight, especially on such short notice. And
Thanks
we
for having
look
me.
forward. Yeah, we look forward to having you on an in-person event and connecting with you as our founders, come up with the need for intellectual property attorneys. So righty. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks again.
All right. All right. Bye-bye, Terry.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
All right.
Everyone.
We'll see everybody next week for our next event. And we look forward to Letitia French. She'll be on. And so let's, and we have got the event coming up this weekend where we have Robert Hart during office hours on Saturday from 1 to 3. And it's just like Terry said, it's an opportunity to connect with an expert and find out some things that you may have had no clue about. So join us on Saturday in person or online, and look forward to seeing you Saturday or next Thursday or the following Thursday. Take care, everyone.